kind of pick up the scraps elsewhere in the rest of the markets where they maybe aren't as much interested. So could I have a gaze at IOTA? Okay, let's just have a look at IOTA. Could you hit the like button for me, please, if you haven't already? That'd be awesome. And then I'll start making clips and then I'll wrap up. How long have we been at this so far? Kind of chatted for a wee while. 22 minutes, that's cool. Fairly discursive episode so far as we've looked through the markets. I think that we're getting a fairly, I've delivered a narrative overall which helps explain quite a good deal of what we've seen with regards to price action today. Wowza, this one's obviously gone up a whole chunk. Looking at that sort of 20% ish rise after, you know, people buying up from this previous area of support and resistance. Now, it didn't suffer the way that Bitcoin could, and we have to acknowledge this is a potential for this one. It could come all the way down towards the lower region here of this, right? It could come all the way down towards the lower region. That could happen. We need to be aware of that. And but we've seen a decent recovery. This wick here shows you, you know, that there's that if there's just, you know, taking an example from the previous wick that we had here, it kind of shows you how you've carved into this here, and when you combine that with looking at the VPVR over here and the fact that it's all wick and not bodies and not consolidation and volatility that exposed this, what it exposes here is of course the fragility in the markets where you're able to scoop up like much cheaper prices with a relatively lower volume than necessarily that it would take to buy it against the overall slippage that you would experience with it going up or indeed going down. There's enough here for us to be able to bounce the markets around, and if you would like to distribute by dumping again with the opportunities when people rebought back in, but the weaknesses remains there as we push down. So that's what this wick kind of shows us, and we've got that still there, you know, it's still there. So what we need to see is a degree of sort of consolidation and or indeed recovery. But if we go down the way, that's like easily explained why that could happen, but we need to not take out that wick. Taking out that wick and going down past 150, you know, you're looking at, there's no point in holding on to positions there. You could just go in a de-risk, and then you'll be able to capture more. I'm not a financial advisor, this is none of this is financial advice, but from a risk point of view, you know, you'll be able to get chunks like this easily when you've got a clearer idea of where the market's going. If you want to sort of just kind of manage it. Now, if you see things flying away against you, you can get 20%, etc., and all that just by going with the momentum at the time. But you need to see that at the time. Going on the 1 hour time frame, you can see there's a big wick in there, for instance. So it's much smaller that we're looking at in terms of the recoveries here. So you get to go trade with the trend on the smaller time frames, but it's not worth. It's, you know, you're experiencing big volatility towards the downside until such times as we aren't, and that's where we are. Anyway, so with IOTA, sorry, that wasn't necessarily so that was more just a discursive thing about the markets currently. 4 hour time frame negative. You know, looking at this and saying if we get above 215, then of course things start to get a bit more positive. You need to consolidate there or get continuation. You need to consolidate there by going and staying above this for a period of time, and or get some continuation to move us away from here, so that we can then say that we're establishing and re-establishing the macro upward trend. At the minute, what we have is a low and a lower low, lower highs down below the cloud, negative cross on the looking at positivity at the meantime, with a potential for a move up the way, seeing a bit of bullish divergence between these two lows, and there's really decent profit taking targets up above, where it's like, just if you can withhold, just like hold back from being greedy, you're looking at the potential to capture something like, I mean, that's 15% to get up towards those targets we talked about before, to go up to $2.10, you know, not even as high as where you need to see the prices manage to break through. Be able to relinquish some of your risk at that point there for a really tasty low risk sort of, if you like, 10%. But of course, what we're looking at here is that if this in the meantime is going to be a downward trend, will it continue? Do we need to get any more bullish divergence? Because we know that there is that potential for weakness down below on the when we see how the like, you know, the prices have wicked down here. There's that potential for that. and I'm feeling like there's a decent upside just with lookout and management risk, right? I think that's kind of how I'm looking at this one. Below the neutral line there, stochastics pointing down, negative here. You know, everything's like looking bad on the 24-hour time frame in terms of like just we've not turned things around, right? Okay, that's what that means, despite this nice wick, because, you know, not yet. Follow through continuation to the 4-hour to higher time frames is possible, but just be aware of the risk that you're taking by assuming that prices at $2.20 per IOTA it mean that we've reestablished the upward trend at that point, because we haven't. What we're doing at that stage is taking advantage of the exuberance towards the downside that we've seen in the face of people de-risking at everybody else's detriment, so to speak, too quickly. But not necessarily, right, if they were correct to do so, and that would be shown by our failure to recover those higher highs above 220 thereafter and going on up. So I hope you're following along with that one. Was that too detailed? I mean, or was that too did I oversimplify anything there, or did I go a little bit too esoteric on it for you? Let